Hello everyone, Chase here. I won't take up much of your time, but I just wanted to say that my newest project, Off Peak Travel, is now available on my website, so go check it out. But if you do have any questions on Off Peak Travel, I am inviting anyone, wherever you're seeing this, to comment or message me any questions you do have, because I find when you sell magic tricks, it's really difficult, because if you give away too much information, no one will buy the trick. And if you give away not a lot of information, no one will buy the trick. It's a real grey area in the magic world. So go ahead and ask me any questions that you want to. But before you all start rushing down to the comments, all three of you that will, I will answer some of the questions that I predict using my magical powers that I think you will be asking. So first off, I suppose, is what is off-peak travel? It's a peaking technique. In my eyes, and from all magic websites that I've seen, I do believe this is possibly, and I'm going to be biased here, it's possibly the most invisible way of peaking a chosen word or thought or name. Possibly do a sentence, but it'd be quite hard to. But yeah, it's a real invisible way to peek at a certain word, and I've been using it for years and years and years. And if I'm honest, I was really reluctant to tell people how this trick works, because it's so dear to my heart and it's something I really work on and I still perform every day. So yeah, it's a real invisible peaking technique. But with all that being said, the technique used is something a lot of mentalists and magicians probably would have known already. But here's my problem with magic itself and magic techniques, is that people get bogged down with the technique, and you shouldn't. It should all be about the presentation, you know. There's so many magicians, especially when it comes to cards, where they want to learn the hardest sleight of hand technique, when in reality, if you can find an easier option that is also invisible to the audience, which most magic tricks are, by the way, then why don't you just do that? You know, what's the saying? Work smarter, not harder, right? So with off-peak travel, the technique, like I said, is something that everybody might already know. But where off-peak travel really shines in my eyes is before and after the actual technique, because that's where you make it as streamlined and as invisible as you possibly can. And that's the whole point of magic, right? You want magic to look natural. You want to make it look invisible when you're doing the technique, so nobody can guess how it worked. And that's what off-peak travel is. Also, if you're wondering why I've got my hood up, my hair is an absolute mess. So there you go. That's why my hood's up. But I know that some of you guys are probably thinking to yourselves, didn't I release a peaking technique many moons ago? Yes, I did. I released Black Mirror Peak, and at the time of making Black Mirror Peak, I thought that it was an exceptional way of peaking, and it still is, and I still use it today. Not as much as off-peak travel, but I do still use Black Mirror Peak in certain situations. You know, I think that's where the difference is between the two peaks. Off-peak travel can theoretically be performed anywhere, anytime, whereas Black Mirror Peak has to be in the right situation. Although, technically, what you use in Black Mirror Peak is more natural than what you use in off-peak travel. So, I still use both techniques, and I recommend getting Black Mirror Peak as well as off-peak travel. Of course I would. I created the projects. But with Black Mirror Peak, I do find that it is better to perform that trick to get a peak of playing cards, whereas off-peak travel is better to get a word or name or whatever, because without giving too much away, it's kind of difficult to see when you use the Black Mirror peak. You need to be associated, or you need to kind of recognize cards very easily, whereas if it's a name and it's really obscure name, it's going to be hard to use. I'm not saying it's impossible, I've done it many times, but that's where off-peak travel really is better when it comes to names, because you have multiple chances of getting a peak if you don't get it the first time round, and it's much more clearer than what you use for Black Mirror peak. But I wanted to keep this short, so please, like I said, comment, message me, whatever you want to do if you have any other questions. Apart from that, get the project, get Off-Peak Travel on my website. Thank you very much. Bye.